Nietzsche's idea that the living species, or the living is only a species of the dead. The suspended body is a body that is between states. To be suspended is to be between states. But here, the suspended body, in a sense, explores the physiological and psychological parameters of the body, and it also begins a series of suspension performances that unfold as a strategy to exhaust the human body, to expose its obsolescence. The body now is obsolete, and not only obsolete in form and function, but it's also an empty body. So this obsolete and empty body becomes alien to itself. But this emptiness that the body experiences is not an emptiness through a lack, but rather through excess. The body, connected with technological components, becomes an extended operational system. It extrudes its awareness and action into other people in other places. And it's through this extrusion that this emptiness is amplified. The third hand was the first augmentation of the body, the idea of a technology attached to the body, allowing the body to visually extend itself, and also enabling it to do things it wouldn't ordinarily do, like writing one word simultaneously with each hand, writing a separate letter. But in 1993, for the 5th Australian Sculpture Triennale, I designed a sculpture for the inside of my body. A sculpture that was inserted 40 centimetres into the stomach cavity. The body here becomes a host for a work of art. The body is not a site for the psyche or for social inscription, rather it's just simply the site of a sculpture. And as well as this obsolete and invaded body performing with technology, in this performance, which was in fact in Avignon, it was a series of performances organised by Louis Beck. In fact, this was a 4-hour performance. The left arm is not under my control. It's computer controlled with a pair of muscle stimulators delivering 0 to 60 volts to the different muscle sites. So I could forget what my left side was doing. It was performing automatically, programmed with the muscle stimulation system. This is the muscle stimulator, so the leg and 2 arms were involuntarily performing. I did have one leg to stand on in this performance, and this performance was in fact for 2 days, 6 hours a day continuously, to allow people in the Pompidou Centre in Paris, the Media Lab in Helsinki, Doors of Perception Conference in Amsterdam, through the touchscreen interface, to remotely control the body in Luxembourg. From the point of view of this body becomes a host for the desires of remote agents. From the point of view of the programmer, they could project their desires to another body in another place. I often had a head-up display, enabling me to see the face of the person who was moving me. I've always been fascinated by, Louis Beck talked about this idea of becoming animal, becoming insect. Here the body in fact is on a 600 kilogram machine, walking machine. It can walk forwards, backwards, it can sit, it can stand, it can turn on the spot. It's the first performance I did with my clothes on. In this performance, you're not only looking in the direction that you're walking, you're also listening to the sounds that the machine is generating, so you're composing the sounds by choreographing the movements of the machine. This was exhibited in Newcastle just some weeks ago. The robot does nothing. It sits and waits until you walk in front of it. When it detects your presence, the robot stands and then selects from its library of movements and performs a little choreography for a few seconds. The Extra Ear project was first conceived in 1996. In 1997, this 3D model was built by scanning my ear and scanning my face. It, though, took 9 years to begin to realise this project. In 2003, though, with the collaboration of Tissue Culture and Art Project in Perth, I decided that I would grow small replicas of my ear using living cells. And we cast my ear, we scaled it down, we made a biodegradable scaffold, seeded the scaffold with living cells, and then these were grown in a microgravity bioreactor. You'll see the small ear growing inside this. We've grown perhaps 6 or 7 ears using mouse cells, human donor cells, cells of the HeLa cell line. The ear was fed every 3 or 4 days to keep it alive. But the problem with tissue culture, especially using scaffold to grow it on, at the moment anyways, you can only grow very, very small three-dimensional structures. So it really wasn't kind of suitable to construct a human scale ear. But deciding to construct the ear on the arm was an anatomically sound position to have it in. And again, we constructed a 3D model to visualize this idea of an ear on the arm. It's a kind of alternate anatomical architecture. You replicate a bodily feature, you relocate it, and then you rewire it for alternate capabilities. So the Extra Ear actually began in Los Angeles last year. We were lucky to get funding from a London production company, and this was done over a period of 6 months. I've just really recovered from the second surgery. Initially, an expander, a skin expander, is inserted in my skin. I'm injecting sterile saline solution to gradually expand the skin more and more. The material that you see the scaffold that's carved out of is a biomaterial called MedPore. It's often used in reconstructive surgical techniques. It's a porous material. So once the MedPore scaffold is inserted under the skin is suctioned over the scaffold. I'm wearing a suction drain on my arm for several weeks. During that time, tissue grows into the scaffold. So cells grow into the scaffold, fusing the skin to the scaffold, which results in pretty much, at the moment, only a relief of an ear. So if you can see it's difficult because of the lighting situation. Can you see the ear at the moment? You can have a closer look at it perhaps later on. Thank you very much.
What your third ear thinks about your 2 ears, if he's jealous.
Well, actually, I usually sleep on my side, and I have my arm resting, so this ear has a partner when it goes to sleep.